running or walking is always the easiest thing you can do. So we'll start up with that. The thing is, it sometimes is a little boring. So to make it exciting, because if it's boring, it's going to be non-sustainable. To make it exciting, you have to have goals set. And the goal today is to go up that way. So if you have an incline or a set of steps, we're going to consider Swallow Cliff steps, but this is closer to us. So we're going to just do incline sprints. Start off with easy walks, and then to give a little more resistance, sprint. So the first thing we're going to do is just take an easy walk up to the top. This is Mount Hoy. And then we'll go back up and down and do a couple intervals to get the legs going. That'll take care of quad strength, leg strength, and get your heart rate up. So not only that, it's a nice view up here. Nothing's really growing yet, but okay. So we just finished a couple sprints up this Mount Hoy. As I mentioned, sprinting up works every muscle of the lower extremity. Calves, forelegs, quads, and hams. And a little bit of the gluteus and piriformis. I usually like to say, as you get tied towards the top of the mountain, pump the arms. When the legs are fatiguing because of lactic acid, the arms can take over and continue the synchronous movement until you break the tape at the top. One word of caution is when you're getting to finish your sprints, as you feel the lactic acid build up, that's a little bit of pain, a lot of fullness and burning. Try not to just stop. If you stop, lactic acid loses that pump action out of the muscle, and you wind up just holding a lot of lactic acid versus continuing with a little walk, effortless walk, which doesn't burn up extra ATP, but it keeps the pump going, so it pushes lactic acid back up into this circulatory system, back into the liver, where the Cori cycle takes over and reuses it. So also takes care of the fullness. But we're going to head back, do a couple of upper extremity, upper torso, Jack Lalane type exercises. Shoulders, if you're just beginning, you can do something called Pike Push-Ups. It's when you get into a upside down V, and as best as you can, keep the arms and the head tucked in the same plane, and just do push-ups in this position. It'll work the deltoids, especially if the elbows go out to the side. Indirectly, I mean, it's the best thing you can do without having a free weights available or dumbbells. You can also go down to the elbows, increase the amount of weight to the shoulders, and sometimes do push-ups this way. Either way, you should be able to feel a burn in the shoulders. Sometimes, in addition, you can do a static pose, which in yoga is called crane or crow. You can either do it like I mentioned or showed you in my video on my tutorial on crow pose, or you can just do one leg at a time. Get into where the palms are about shoulder width or a little wider apart. Shoulders are over the wrists. First you rest the knees on the elbows, try to get your balance, and then you lift up and hold. You can hold this pose. It'll also give you resistance to the shoulders. The other thing is, while in a wide base stance with your hands, getting into side plank. Not necessarily with the legs, especially if you're beginning, essentially using a three-point stance and then just lifting up so that the movement will be almost mimicking doing a specific movement with cables to the rear deltoids. So that way we've done the pike push-ups, the incline sphinx pose push-ups, crow pose, and then side plank. Should be able to feel a pretty decent fullness or warmth to the shoulders. That's if you don't have weights around. I'll try to show you what I used to do when I was a teenager. I used to wrap around encyclopedias when we had them back then with belts and lift them in lateral raise like this. I'll show you how to do that at home with a gallon of water. But next will be push-ups. To develop the pectoralis muscle is essentially push-ups. So you either do flat push-ups, like I just showed you, in a plank pose, and lower to chest to touching table or ground, looking forward. Breathe in going up, exhale going down. You can also, if you wanted to, do one arms. I think I showed this in one of my videos for variety, but the other option aside from standard push-ups to develop the chest is the asanas that we do in yoga. So instead of going wide, this is wide, elbows out. This is yoga pose, elbows in. So elbows in, down, up dog, back into child's down, up dog, down dog. Up dog, down dog. If you do that series of 3 in what's called an asana, it'll keep you actually moving more than just the pec, working on the pec. You'll be also working on the legs and your trunk. Final option, if you want more of a challenge, you get your legs higher than your arms. So at somewhat of an incline, it puts more weight and resistance into the pec. So anytime you lower or decline the chest and torso from where relative to where the feet are, you'll actually add more weight and resistance to the upper body. If you stand at standard or higher than standard, you'll take weight off of the upper body, make it a lot easier for you. So that might be an option if you're just beginning or doing the push-ups from knees bent position. But you always try to advance to something more challenging so you develop more resistance. Muscle has a tendency to remember efficiency, and if you don't continue pushing, whether it's the amount of repetitions, the amount of sets, using weight on your back or putting resistance or changing poses, positions, you'll get stagnant and you can always push the envelope. I found these rafters here. So essentially the only way to really build the back, that would be these muscles, would be pull-ups. So you have to have something you can hold on to, or a rope or a bar of some sort. Here these rafters might do the trick. Be careful when you do jump up, but if you have weak hands, weak forearms, you can always get wraps in a certain way that you wrap around your hand and use the resistance of your hand holding to actually give you more grip strength. But essentially you grab, you take your position, and you can do either in front of the back exercises where you're doing pull-ups or behind the neck. It's usually to the point where the elbows are perpendicular. You can get your chin above the bar and you just do pull-ups. Sometimes by increasing resistance, like what I did with my core video, you can put a little incline into it and work. You can also try to do close chain or close hand grip to get more rhomboid work. Wide usually gets lats, close usually gets rhomboid. So wide gets you wide grip gets you wide building, close grip gets you thickness. Close grip, you'll just have to watch your face when you try to peek. So essentially that. Those two are my favorite. That's like doing a long pulley row where you stand like this or you sit down, get your cables in the gym, bring them to this level, versus the pull down bars in front and back. Doing it this way, you kind of get the same thing, but you'll be doing a lot of bicep work if you want to change it up a little bit. So that would be just changing your grip. Let's see if I can do it here. Easy enough. So that is essentially it for back. Now there's a whole bunch of other things you can do for variety, but I just did all this exercise, essentially most of the body parts, without even going to a gym. You can do this at home. If working out outside didn't resonate with you, you can take all those movements inside as well. In fact, you can use makeshift weight or dumbbells in the form of gallons, or as I used to do, strapping together Encyclopedia Britannicas, but I don't think you can find them anymore, and getting yourself some resistance so you can do targeted exercises. For example, if I wanted to do shoulders, you do lateral raises. These are about 8.5 pounds each, 1 gallon, and or front raises, both to work the deltoid or the shoulders, and then finish off with overhead press. So all these things you can do back to back to back. You're not going to have that much resistance compared to like a 40-pound dumbbell, but at least you'll be able to do these things in the quiet of your own house, in the privacy of your own house. Sometimes I would do pull-ups on my pull-up bar. I have that at the office. You've probably seen it in other videos. But if you don't have a pull-up bar, you can actually do rows in the form of just lifting up in a bent over position. Now fully bent over would be the best, and just get to the point where you pull the weight up into the waist area. Now if you can do that on a regular basis, whether you do both arms or just one at a time, try to isolate the movement so you can feel it in the latissimus dorsi. And then, so you've done shoulders, you've done lats. Now you can do pec or chest. You can either go flat or go in an incline with regards to flies and start. Now certainly you have to do a lot of these repetitions to get some kind of exercise or resistance to the pec, or you kind of dovetail them together with the push-ups in the varying degrees like I mentioned or showed you in the park. So whatever you decide to do, you've got your options. I mentioned in the park that you should also try to incorporate core work as well. Core work in the form of planks, crunches, or my favorite, boat pose. Boat pose is essentially a pose in yoga where you hold position for a short amount of time in isometrics, and it gives you a little bit of resistance to your core versus hurting your back with crunches or sit-ups. That's a little bit old school. Sometimes you can do wall slides against the wall to give yourself some quad resistance, but whatever you design, these are my favorite. This is what I do to get a quick pump if I can't get to Planet Fitness. For those of you who are just starting out and trying to develop your own routine, that's what I used to watch when I was a little kid, as far as Jack Lalane in his tights, doing that 20 to 30 minute exercise, jumping around in his room, not using too many pieces of equipment except for what he found in the kitchen, or as far as chairs, tables, benches. You can do all that stuff, still get a pretty decent pump, and then work your way up to joining a gym, getting the benefits of having a trainer. I guess this is essentially prehabilitation, but the best bet is to always try to get some kind of routine, 3 to 5 days a week, 30 minutes if you can, of moderate intensity. Moderate intensity is when you have a pretty decent heart rate, you're a little sweaty at the end, you don't really have to take a break if you're just doing this kind of easy resistance, and you progress on, because everybody develops a little bit of tolerance. So when you have that float phase or plateau where you've really done good, you've been able to get a couple of sets out real quick in 30 minutes, and it's a piece of cake, well, push yourself again. You can usually push yourself about every 3 months or so. Now if you're by yourself, it's really easy to just stay lax and not progress on, but always have a next goal ahead of you. And once you get to the point where you're out of exercises and it's kind of getting boring, that's when you hire somebody, as far as a personal trainer, a life coach, a yoga coach, a weight training coach, or maybe even a physical therapist for prehabilitation. But bottom line is, these are the exercises you should be doing. No excuses. I didn't spend any money to get any of this stuff done. And you can, again, progress on when you're ready to other challenges to continue making that lifestyle change.